Hey, good morning. Enjoying my morning coffee, and I have to come clean with you. I have to come clean because one of the things I constantly preach is consistency, consistency, consistency. Chad, how do I lose weight over the long term? How do I keep it off? And I tell you consistency, consistency, consistency. I don't want you to be perfect. I myself am not perfect. If you can do 80% correct over a long period of time, you're going to be better than the person who is going for spurts of a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and then falling off their fitness, their diet, their weightlifting program. And that's what I mean by consistency. But the reality is, I myself do not think long term. I'm not a good long term thinker. I'm quite an impulsive man. Now, I can do it, and logically, I know that in the future, I have to have adopted certain habits to maintain a physique and to be a healthy individual and to live a long time. But the reality is, looking back on it, any goal that I accomplished in my fitness world was done so with a time frame in mind. Every single one. If it was losing body fat, like a substantial amount of body fat, it was 16 weeks. 16 weeks with an old coach of mine. And that worked for me because I knew that I had to quote unquote suffer for 16 weeks. It's like, okay, I'm going to be doing something that's not what I would normally do, but I can manage that discomfort for 16 weeks. And the reality was that it wasn't that hard. Like, this man gave me the tools that I needed to eventually pursue diet in a way that was not as stressful as most people make it out to be. However, the fact remains is that there is going to be some stress. You're eating in a caloric deficit. And I've experimented with different meal timing and different ingredients and different ratios of fat to protein to carbohydrates and all that good stuff. And that does help. The timing, the ingredients you choose, all of that matters, and all of that's going to go a long way to assisting you. And I'm still experimenting with that too to give my students the best chance. However, even when I got super ripped at the beginning of the year, and I mean, I got down to single digit body fat percentage, just the first time in my life, I was completely shredded. Like, I could almost step onto stage, almost competition ready. I had a 2 week mindset. And then after that, somewhat of a 2 week mindset as well. So we could say maybe 4 weeks, but I knew that, okay, I'm going to commit to this deficit, this way of eating, whatever may come, for 2 weeks because I know it's 2 weeks. And humans understand timelines. If we have an end date, if we see the light at the end of the tunnel, we can bear that stress. We can say, okay, I'm doing this, but it's not forever. And the thing about consistency is that it implies, at least in terms of health, is that it implies that you're doing this forever. But the thing is, once I accomplish one goal, I move on to another. I didn't just maintain my physique. I did for a time, but very briefly. And what happened was I would cut and then I would go into a bulk. There's really no stop. I really believe that humans are meant to be progressing constantly. For me, this is fun. I need to be constantly changing things up. I need that variety in my life. If you telling me, Chad, you have to eat the same way, the same calories, the same macro ratio, the same ingredients largely for the rest of your life, that sucks. That sucks. I know who I am. I know my strengths. I know that those strengths can be a double-edged sword. And I know I need variety in my life. I know I need to be constantly mixing it up, whether that's with the foods I eat, that's with the goals that I have. And so what I would suggest to you is think in terms of timelines, think in terms of chunks. Set your goal for, okay, in 16 weeks, I'm going to lose this much. Even, fuck it, in 4 weeks, 2 weeks, I'm going to stick to this meal plan. I'm going to stick to this certain amount of calories and macronutrients, and I'm going to eat this way. Because the reality is, if you want to lose body fat, yes, I've become adept at being able to eat out and eyeing portions of food and knowing, okay, that's how much protein, that's how many calories, for the most part, right? It's never going to be 100% accurate. But the best way to lose body fat or to accomplish a goal at the highest level is to stick to a meal plan. And that can be boring. And even if I give you variety within that meal plan, well, you still know it's in that meal plan. So you got 3 meal choices for breakfast, 3 meal choices for lunch, for dinner, etc. There's still a routine, right? It's still rote to a degree. It's still predictable. And I can appreciate both. I can appreciate that that's going to help me get to the body goal that I want, but also that life is beautiful and diverse, and to enjoy all of it, I need variety in my life, and that's going to conflict with my body goal. So you have to choose which one is more important to you at the time, and you have to recognize that if you don't want to eat consistently in the sense that you're eating the same thing, then, or you want to follow that meal plan 80% of the time, then you're not going to be optimizing for that goal. So these thoughts were on my mind. I wanted to come clean because if you think in terms of short-term chunks, I think it's going to be easier for you. Consistency, listen, I'll give you a tip. If you want to be healthy for your entire life, it's easy. Stick to whole foods. Nobody got fat eating whole foods. Nobody got fat eating ground beef, tofu, eggs. Seitan is a little bit more processed, but it's still relatively unprocessed compared to other things such as Oreos and chips, for example. But even potatoes, cut up some potatoes, fry up some potatoes, enjoy some salt and ketchup on them. Leafy green vegetables, carrots, red bell peppers, like stuff that comes from the earth. If you stick to stuff that comes from the earth or walks on two hooves, and I know my vegan friends won't like this, the reality is I have non-vegans watching me and non-vegetarians watching me, and I would sooner they stick to a whole food diet, animals or not, than the processed food diet. Right? Ultimately, that's what I want to see them. So if you want to be healthy for the long term, like if you've got no immediate goal, the first thing I would tell you is when you accomplish your goal, celebrate, but also get a new goal. And second of all, if you don't get a new goal, stick to whole foods. Stick to whole foods, and that's how you can remain lean, because it's really, really hard to overeat when you're eating whole foods.